Honourable Senators, I wish to draw your attention to the presence in the gallery of family members of our late colleague and friend, Senator Enverga, his wife, Mrs. Rosemary A. Enverga, and his daughters, Ristel, Rochelle, and Riza. They're accompanied by members of their extended family. On behalf of all senators, welcome to the Senate of Canada. Honourable Senators, I have received notice from the Leader of the Opposition who requests, pursuant to Rule 4-3(1), that the time provided for consideration of Senators' statements be extended today for the purpose of paying tribute to the Honourable Tobias C. Enverga Jr., whose death occurred on November 16, 2017. Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Senators, I rise today to pay tribute to one of our own, a colleague who left us much too soon, the Honourable Tobias Enverga Jr., passed away suddenly on November 16th of this year. Au cours de son passage de 5 ans au Sénat.
During his 5 years in the Senate, in the Canadian Senate, our colleague was an active, engaged, and enthusiastic participant, not only in this chamber but also as a committee member, who always did his work with good humour and joyfully. Senator Enverga was a very friendly and welcoming person towards each and every one of us, and his loss is keenly felt.
Friend Father Ben Ebkas said of Senator Enverga that he lived a life filled with love and filled with a sense of mission, a very kind, caring, down-to-earth person, saying Filipinos are eternally grateful that Senator Enverga did his best to fill the world with love. Senator Enverga was very proud to be the first Filipino-Canadian senator. He used his position as a senator to advocate for our multicultural communities. As a Filipino immigrant, Senator Enverga cherished the opportunity that he was given to make a better life for himself and his family in Canada. With that in mind, he worked tirelessly to ensure the same opportunity was afforded to many deserving immigrants who now also call Canada their home. He also used his time as a senator to draw attention to some of the most overlooked people in our society, including caregivers and people with disabilities. Before being named to this place in 2012, upon the recommendation of former Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper, Tobias Enverga was already a trailblazer with a history of public service. In 2008, he founded the Philippine-Canadian Charitable Foundation to assist various community charitable needs. In 2010, he became the first Filipino-Canadian elected to public office in the City of Toronto as a trustee of the Toronto Catholic District School Board. He was also the very first visible minority to be elected to this board. For all these reasons and more, the Filipino Canadians all over our country love Senator Jun, as they affectionately called him, but he was especially loved by those in the Greater Toronto area, where he made his home. Our thoughts today are with Senator Enverga's family, especially his wife Rosemary and their 3 daughters, Ristel, Rochelle, and Riza, who will miss him more than I could ever adequately express. Tobias and Rosemary were truly a team, devoted to one another. It is my hope that their deep Christian faith will sustain his family in the days ahead. On behalf of all Conservative senators and all senators in this House, I extend sincere condolences to Senator Enverga's family, friends, and staff. I want them to know that we feel their loss too and will miss him greatly. Thank you.
Senator Harder.
With a very heavy heart that I rise today to pay tribute to our late colleague, Senator Enverga. It is tragic for a life to be cut so short, especially when it is a life of devotion and service to family, to community, and to country. Le sénateur Enverga était un homme de grande foi, un homme qui
Senator Enverga was a man of deep faith who truly lived his faith. He was always kind and courteous. He listened to others and helped them.
proud Canadian, and as Senator Smith has noted, a man of many firsts. The first Filipino-Canadian elected to public office in the City of Toronto, the first Filipino-born senator in Canada. And as his colleagues, however, we have the privilege of knowing that for Senator Enverga, his priority was not so much to be the first to achieve these positions, but to break down the barriers for others so that he would not be the last in these positions. Avec son cœur généreux, il était
With his generous heart, he was devoted to several causes.
in developing countries, provide disaster relief, both here in Canada and to provide support services for immigrants and refugees in need. With his strong voice, which often filled this chamber, he advocated on behalf of people whose voices were too soft or went unheard, people with disabilities, children, the most vulnerable in our communities. During question period, there was no issue too small, including peas and pulses, or too large, including large rubber ducks and cardboard cutouts that escaped Senator Enverga's scrutiny. He was a relentless presence in the Senate to hold the government to account for the benefit of Canadians, from farmers and small business owners to immigrants and public servants. And for that, we are all grateful. Il était dévoué à sa famille, si fier.
He was devoted to his family and so proud of his daughters.
They find comfort knowing that his lifetime of achievement has made Canada a better place.
Senator Wu.
Honourable Senators, I join you today in remembrance of our friend and colleague, Tobias Enverga Jr. He left us too soon, but did so with a lifetime of achievements crammed into a mere 61 years. Beloved by those who knew him well, he is mourned by scores of family members, friends, and associates across this country and in his native Philippines. A devout Catholic, he was a man of faith and works. Senator Enverga championed religious education as well as poverty eradication and disaster relief. He was a proud member of the Filipino diaspora in Canada, and the Filipino community in turn looked to him as a leader, advocate, and role model. Together with his wife, Rosamar, he established a Philippine-Canadian charitable foundation which supported relief efforts in the aftermath of the devastating Typhoon Haiyan, which struck the Visayas region of the Philippines in 2013. Senator Enverga made history as the first Filipino-Canadian to be appointed to the Senate. His time with us in the upper house was too short, but he will be remembered as a colleague who was tirelessly and passionately committed to the calling that brought him to this chamber. He has set an example for us and for all those who knew him to also be tirelessly and passionately committed to the callings in our own lives. I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Independent Senators Group and all senators to send my deepest condolences to his wife, Rosamar, daughters, Ristel, Roselle, and Riza, as well as other family members who have traveled from far and wide to be with us in the chamber this afternoon. We thank you for sharing Tobias with us, albeit briefly, and we pledge to uphold the memory of his good works.
Senator Day.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Senators,
To join others here today to express my sadness at the sudden death of our colleague, the Honourable Tobias Enverga Jr. Senator Enverga had been with us here for just 5 years, but in his life, he displayed a long-lasting commitment to public service. He worked hard and lent his voice to a number of worthy causes. He was a strong advocate for persons with disabilities, and he has been described repeatedly as a happy warrior, always maintaining a cheerful demeanor, even while arguing passionately for or against a particular issue. He loved this country of Canada, and that love saw him introduce a motion to sing our national anthem together on Tuesdays at the start of our sessions. Recently, he traveled to Manila on my behalf as co-chair of Canada-China Legislative Association to participate in the 38th General Assembly of the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly. I know that he was well received and fulfilled his role as delegate from Canada with distinction. Many of those who met him there have expressed to us their sadness at his loss. Senator Tobias Enverga was fiercely proud of his Filipino heritage, and his brethren were fiercely proud of him. Shortly after his appointment to the Senate, he traveled to my home province of New Brunswick to participate in the Asian Heritage Cultural Gala in St. John. I was also in attendance, and I was struck by the countless numbers of Filipino community members in attendance. I had no idea there were that many Filipinos in New Brunswick. They had traveled from across the province to meet with him and hear him speak. The Filipino Association of New Brunswick still displays a message from him and a photo from that past visit on the front page of their website. I would be remiss if I did not mention that Senator Enverga held his family dearly, particularly his ladies. He often mentioned them in committee and in conversations with his colleagues. On behalf of the Independent Senate Liberals, I offer sincere condolences to them. His wife, Rosemary, his three daughters, Ristel, Raza, and Rosel. I hope you can forgive me rolling my R's. I find it interesting that the four women in his life all had names beginning with R. And to his extended family and friends, I offer my sincere condolences. I'm certain that he will be sorely missed by all those who had the good fortune to have known him.
Senator Martin.
Honourable Senators, I too rise today with a heavy heart to pay tribute to our dearly departed colleague and friend, the Honourable Tobias C. Enverga Jr., and express my sincere condolences to the love of his life, Rosemary. They would have celebrated 35 years of marriage in January 2018, and their three princesses, Risa, Rosel, and Ristel, were always in their father's heart, wherever he was, now in heaven. And to his staff, friends, and community across Canada and in the world, and those who are present in the chamber now, please know that your loss is our loss, and you are in our thoughts and prayers. Senator Enverga, June, we called ourselves cousins, bound by a shared history of bloodshed on the Korean Peninsula during the Korean War by his countrymen of the Philippines, who were the first to answer the call for help. On this foundation forged in sweat, tears, and blood, we stood on the shoulders of the heroes who had served and sacrificed their lives so that we may be strong and free. He served tirelessly in his capacity as senator, the first Filipino-Canadian to be appointed to the Senate in 2012 by the Right Honourable Stephen Harper. Here in Ottawa, all of us knew how hard our colleague worked. He served on committees from morning till night. He rose in this chamber on debate to defend, to convince, and to inspire. Without exaggeration, he probably had the most out-of-town guests of all of the senators in our chamber. They proudly attended the annual Philippines Independence Day flag-raising ceremonies, or attended his signature events and visited Parliament Hill and their senator. The outpouring of love and grief in his sudden passing has been immeasurable. The hundreds of wreaths and floral arrangements lining the halls of the funeral home, the changing of the guards of his fellow Knights of Columbus, the choirs of angels whose voices filled the rooms and our hearts, the river of tears, the moving eulogies from family and friends, showed us just how much everyone must have received from their beloved senator long before his Senate appointment. He was a man of deep faith and conviction. The Bible verses chosen for the Vancouver Memorial Service for his grieving BC community and friends, and scripture readings and songs that moved us to tears in Toronto speak the truth about the late Senator Enverga and his divine legacy. John 15:12-13 says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends." June's love was far-reaching. His work was done with such joy and abandon. Thank you for your incredible service to Canada. Rest in peace, dear cousin, until we meet again.
Senator Munson.
Honourable Senators, normally we have notes in front of us, or we have a sheet in front of us to describe another senator that we're going to miss immensely, but I had a hard time to try to put notes together, because as I gaze across at an empty chair, what I see is the human spirit. And we've seen the human spirit today, this morning, with the 150th anniversary, with our medals, and watching families and a child receiving a medal for caring for his mother, who passed away of cancer. And he was 5 and he's now 9, and he's raised money in his mother's name. You had to be here this morning to feel it. Over on the other side, there are 125 Special Olympic athletes who will be honored on the floor of the House of Commons, for their sport and play at Special Olympics in Austria, many with Down syndrome. It's a day of spirit. I'm a great believer, honorable senators, in the human spirit, and Tobias had that. And today, I'm talking about a connection, and a personal connection I've made with Tobias over the last 5 years, and that has to do with Down syndrome. And three sisters there, but Roussel, who has Down syndrome, is sitting with her mom as we chat today. And Tobias and I used to talk about a lot of things, because Michael in my office has Down syndrome, and Roussel knows Michael, and they have such affection for each other. They have affection every time the Canadian Down Syndrome Society comes here and has an annual meeting. We all get together and we hug and we love and we share moments. And we share that because I had a son who had Down syndrome, and he was only a year old, but he was here for a reason. And it's his spirit that is instilled in me and the work that a lot of us do, and those with intellectual disabilities. Tobias and I shared that. So whether you're 1, 61, 31, doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. It's why you're here and what you do. And we talked a lot about that. Tobias and I had different points of view, but there's one thing that I've said it before and I'll say it again. You can seek the wisdom of the ages, but you have to always look at the world through the eyes of a child, and especially those with Down syndrome. I promised his wife just moments ago that, and she asked me, we're going to keep what I would think I'd like to call the Tobias torch alive when it comes to dealing with people with intellectual and other disabilities. We're all here for a time, and we all have a chance to serve. And Tobias Enverga served in his time here. But Tobias Enverga Jr.'s spirit will live on. Thank you very much.
Senator Platt.
Thank you, Speaker. Colleagues, I also wish to pay tribute to our colleague, but much more importantly, our friend, Tobias Enverga. I would like to address my comments, if I could, to Tobias's family, his wife, Rosemary, and their 3 daughters, Risto, Riza, and Rochelle. I knew Tobias as a senator and a colleague, and had come to appreciate his commitment and dedication. He was someone who I, as the whip of our caucus, could always depend on. I spent the last year and a half sitting on Fisheries Committee with Tobias and appreciated his strength and support at that committee. But few, if any of us in this chamber really knew or appreciated what an impact our friend had across our great country and overseas in the country of his origin. Most of us were spellbound by the words of the priest on Monday at Tobias's funeral about the work that he had done in the Filipino community, both here and abroad, how he had organized relief when the massive tsunami hit his homeland. The impact Tobias had here was evidenced by the 1,500 plus people that attended his funeral on Monday, and the 1,800 that attended prayers over the 3 days. We will all miss Tobias. However, our mourning will subside. Yours is just beginning. And I assure you that we will continue to uphold you in our prayers. And we wish you God's peace and know that you will find strength in his love. I do not very often recite scripture in this chamber, but if my colleagues will indulge me, I would like to leave you, Rosemary, and your daughters with these 2 passages of scripture. Psalm 116, verse 15 says, "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." And Isaiah 41, verse 10 says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." We wish you God's very sincerest blessings. Thank you.
Senator Dick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Senators, I rise today to honour the life of our dear friend and colleague, the late Honourable Tobias C. Enverga Jr., whose sudden and tragic death is hard to grasp. Senator Enverga, the first Filipino-Canadian senator, was appointed to the Senate on September 6, 2012. He was a very active parliamentarian both inside and outside of the chamber. Over the course of his time in the Senate, he was a member of several standing Senate committees and the sponsor of Bill S-218, now in its 3rd reading, that would designate every October Latin American Heritage Month. He was the co-chair of the Canada-Philippine Interparliamentary Group and an executive member of the Parl Americas Group. When he wasn't speaking in the chamber or questioning witnesses in committee, he could be found advocating tirelessly for persons with disabilities, multiculturalism in Canadian society, and community building. Above all else, Senator Enverga was one of the kindest, sweetest, and most good-humored people I've had the privilege of working with here in the Senate. There are many memories of him which come to mind, but there's one in particular that stands out in my mind that I would like to share with you. In April 2016, Senator Enverga, myself, and the other members of the Standing Senate Committee on Aboriginal Peoples traveled to Inuit Nanungat to study northern housing. For the entirety of the trip, he was so engaged in the process in our meetings with witnesses, peppering them with questions, sprouting from a deeply genuine concern for their unique situation and overall well-being. He also did what a great Senate committee member and humane person does. He just listened, took it all in without any bias or judgment, allowing himself to truly come to understand the situation and move forward with the knowledge necessary to help remedy it in accordance with the people's desires. There's a picture of that trip in the halls of the Senate. I think it's moved, of Senator Enverga and myself, all bundled up in our puffy winter jackets. I think it was in Igloolik, north, as far north as I've ever been, and I'm sure the same for Senator Enverga. He's sitting in the driver's seat of the snowmobile, happy as a clam. I found out that he loved nature. What an incredible person. Every time I walk by that picture, it warms my heart in memory of the time that we shared on that trip. That man in that photo is who I will remember, a friend who had great zest for life and who deeply cared for the well-being of those around him. His funeral this past Monday at St. Michael's Cathedral Basilica in Toronto was inspirational, moving, and memorable. My sincerest condolences to his wife, Rosemary, his 3 beautiful daughters, and his family. Honourable Tobias Enverga Jr., rest in peace, dear friend and colleague.
Senator Wells.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. I rise today to pay tribute to our colleague, Senator Tobias Enverga. As someone who devoted his life to the service of our country, and especially in the Filipino community, today a grateful Senate thanks and honors his commitment to our country. To lose someone of such dedication and who was as passionate about helping his community is truly a heartbreaking loss to everyone. Senator Enverga is an example to us all in public service. Senator Enverga was never too busy to listen to others, to support his colleagues, his caucus, and his community. He was someone of genuine principle who leaves a big hole in our caucus, in our Senate, and in the lives of those who knew him well. Senator Enverga, as others have mentioned, will be fondly remembered for his kindness, his sense of humor, and his unwavering spirit and commitment to help others. I was fortunate enough to have worked with him continuously over the last 5 years. I admired his hard work, his dedication, and his sunny disposition, which always included his signature oratorical delivery. My family and I wish to extend our deepest sympathies to Senator Enverga's wife, Rosemary, and his 3 beautiful daughters, Ristel, Riza, and Rossell, and to his extended family, as well as to his staff, James Campbell, Eric Parangao, and Anavik Tapar. We have lost more than a member of our parliamentary family. We have lost a great friend.
Senator O.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable colleagues, today we come together to honor and to celebrate the memory of late Honourable Tobias Enverga Jr. Tobias was a kind-hearted and generous man. His love of life was only exceeded by the love of his family and friends. Tobias was also a proud Canadian who served our country with fierce loyalty. His death is a great loss for Canada and the many individuals whose life he transformed, and many of whom are members of the Filipino-Canadian community, which he so proudly represented. Tobias and I were good friends. I remember fondly that on late evening at work, he would always come to my office so that the 2 of us could walk to our temporary home together. He also would rush me out of my office on days we traveled back home. He liked to make sure that we make it home, we make it back to our respective family as soon as possible. Likewise, I would always call him every early morning to make sure that he would wake up in time for breakfast.
We like to walk to the hill together. We took care of each other that way. It will be hard for all of us to forget the passionate way in which Tobias spoke about issues he cared deeply about. On one last time together, I told him, Tobias, I just went to the Toronto Sunnybrook Hospital to fix a hearing aids. He asked me, what happened? I told him, because you speak too loud in the Senate. I have to lower the volume on my hearing device. He laughed loudly and said, should I lower my voice? I told him, no. You should speak louder so that the other side of the house truly pays attention. There are so many moments like this one that I could share today, but none would convey the true essence of his character. For me, it would take a long time to come to terms with the fact that Tobias will no longer be around, that we will no longer hear his voice throughout the chamber. However, I know that all of us who love him, who mourn his loss, will continue to move forward, strengthened and comforted by the lasting memory we share with him. May you rest in eternal peace, my dear friend, Tobias. Thank you.
Senator No.
Thank you, Mr. Speakers. Honorable Senators, Honorable Senator,
Honorable Senators,
we all have been trying in our different ways to cope with the dreadful news of Senator Enverga's sudden passing. It's not easy to express the sense of loss of such a close colleague. The initial shock is succeeded by disbelief, incomprehension, anger, and also concern for his beloved family. I admire Senator Enverga for his unwavering commitment to others, and especially for his devotion to his wife Rosemary and his three daughters, Resto, Risa, and Roselle. The Honourable Tobias Enverga served in the hallmark of this great chamber with integrity and fierce determinations as the first appointed senator of Filipino origin. The commitment strengthened respect, compassion, and inclusion in Canadian society. Through those efforts, his dedication to the Filipinos-Canadian community shines as an inspiration to me and so many others. He was truly a rock star for the Filipino community. I felt fortunate and honored to have been summoned to the upper chamber on the same day as Senator Enverga on September 6, 2012. We attended several outreach events together and tag-team community issues on mutual interest. I will miss the surprise visit he makes to my office on a regular basis. As I always remember how, in good time and bad, Senator Enverga never lost his capacity to smile and laugh. Ses gestes, grands et petits,
his gestures, big and small, revealed the depth of his love for Canada. And his very nature showed us the power of goodwill and good humor that are all about us.
A devout parliamentarian, a loving father, a faithful husband, and a great man. Rest in peace, Matthew.
Senator Toulajan.
Honourable Senators, I too rise today to pay tribute to my good friend and Senate colleague, late Tobias Enverga. My colleagues before me have very eloquently described Senator Enverga's good work and achievements both in and out of this place. In preparing to speak today, I struggled with how can I put into words something that would accurately capture his gentleness, his warmth, his positive attitude, and of course the twinkle in his eye. Tobias and I had many things in common. We carried on our shoulders the hopes and aspirations of our respective communities that looked to us for leadership and guidance. Tobias was a profound voice for the Filipino-Canadian community, and those of us who saw him interact and reach out to his community saw the sense of pride that he felt. This past weekend at his visitation and funeral, I watched hundreds of members of the Filipino-Canadian community come to pay their respects. I saw what many of us who have spent time at events with Tobias already knew, that he was well loved and respected. We lost our friend and colleague, but we cannot forget that the Filipino community in this country has lost their voice and their champion here in the Senate of Canada. His commitment to his community was only outweighed by his commitment to his family, to his wife, Rosemary, and your 3 daughters, Ristel, Riza, and Roselle. My deepest sympathies are with you. Tobias, you were a gentleman of the old school, and there are very few of those that remain. You left us way too soon, my friend. We will miss you. I will miss you. Rest in peace until we meet again.
Senator Tkachuk.
Honourable Senators, I'm going to pay tribute to Tobias by using his own words, those he spoke during his many valuable contributions to debate in this place. I loved his speeches. Mind you, I had no choice. He was right behind me. He was Canada's first Filipino senator and his first-generation immigrant to Canada. His contributions to debate on many issues had a unique resonance. He began his speech on Bill C-6 thus: I came to Canada to make a better life for myself. Keep in mind that I have worked tirelessly to contribute to Canada, and keep in mind that I made a pledge to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II to uphold all the laws of this land, and that was the deal I made with Canada's sovereign in return for citizenship being bestowed upon me. That was a powerful introduction to a speech on an issue that was important to him. He concluded just as powerfully. Honourable Senators, he said, I am a proud Canadian, very proud. I understand the hardships that many suffer in order to come here and make a better life for themselves. I also understand that once I have obtained the privilege of citizenship, it symbolizes the agreement between Canada and me. He also weighed in on Bill C-210, in which he urged consensus. Consensus, he said, is a Canadian way. It is our DNA as a nation and as a people. It is how we forged our great confederation in the first place, how we managed to unite many diverse voices and interests in one common country. And we succeeded in doing so without the necessity for violence or armed revolution. We did it by talking about it, sharing his views, and listening to each other. Tobias brought with him a sense of wonder and appreciation for this place, something many of which who have been here for generations take for granted. That came through in his speeches. Many of us Canadians take things like peace, harmony, and justice and prosperity for granted. He did not. He never took his country for granted or the special role the Senate played. Nothing better captures than his words about our national anthem. I am very passionate about O Canada, he said. It is part of our tradition, which transcends merely being a song, and is more accurately described as a pledge of allegiance for many newcomers to our country. As such, colleagues, a country's national anthem is the manifestation of tradition in its oral form and is undoubtedly quintessential to its tradition. Subsequently, our national anthem should make us swell with pride every time we hear it, whether it be at our children's school assembly or before a hard-fought hockey game. His words, his thoughts, his unique perspective, that is the special and lasting contribution he made to this country and to this place, and we're forever in his debt. To his wife, Rosemary, his daughters, Rista, Riza, and Roselle, and the Filipino community, we are all so sorry.
Senator Patterson.
Honourable Senators, I'm proud to wear a traditional Filipino barong in the chamber today to honor and pay my respects to the first Filipino-Canadian senator in the Senate of Canada, and he was so proud of that, the Honourable Tobias Enverga, my dear friend. Senator Enverga was a dear friend inside and outside the Senate. He and I formed a special bond because of my close connection to the Filipino community through my wife. Together, Tobias, his wife Rosemary, my wife Evelyn, and I shared many special memories that I will cherish forever. One special memorable moment was the first time Senator Enverga visited us in Nunavut shortly after his appointment with Rosemary. It was December, and it was bitterly cold and dark, and the sea ice was frozen in the bay. "I want to see what it's like out there," he said. "How do the Inuit stay warm in this cold place?" So he donned sealskin mitts, polar bear pants, and a caribou parka and bravely headed out on the sea ice by skidoo to experience life in the Arctic in the dead of winter. He approached that visit the same way he approached life, full of energy, wonder, and joy. What I will miss most of June, as he was known to friends and family, is his great capacity to love. He loved his family deeply. He loved his country, his community, and his job. This was well expressed by his parish priest and good friend, Father Ben Ebkas, who said on Monday at his funeral, quoting the Gospel of St. Matthew, "Well done, good and faithful Senator. You have been faithful to small matters by being true and brave and filling the world with love." Many said of Senator Enverga that he had an inability to say no. I would argue that he did not have a desire to say no because he lived a life of service. As we've heard today, he was involved in many charitable organizations and was extremely active in the Filipino community, respected across Canada and throughout the world. Farewell, my friend. Thanks for all the lives you have touched. You will remain an inspiration to us in our work and in our hearts forever. Rest in peace.
Senator McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Senators, I also rise today to pay tribute to our colleague and dear friend, Senator Tobias C. Enverga Jr. I echo the remarks made by other senators surrounding his long record of commitment to his country, his community, and to Canada's diversity and pluralism. Like all of you, I was shocked and saddened by his death. Senator Enverga and I were appointed to the Senate on the same day, along with Senators Belmar, No, and McGuinness. I extend my sincere condolences to his wife, his 3 daughters, and his extended family and friends. Colleagues, we will all remember his voice, his strong voice, his powerful voice, filled with passion and emotion. A voice we will not be hearing anymore. But the echo of that voice, like a ghost of the past, visiting the inner walls of this chamber, will return, reminding all of us of the importance of our work and commitment as senators and the true meaning of House of Second Sober Thought. God bless him.
Senator Manning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The sudden passing of Senator Enverga was indeed a shock to all of us, and at times such as these, it is so difficult to find the adequate words to offer comfort. However, I want the family and friends of Senator Enverga to know how much we sympathise with them in this time of tremendous sorrow. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Friends, this can be a very difficult place to get to know each other on a one-to-one basis. But I have found during my time here that one of the best ways is when you have the opportunity to serve together on one of our committees. This is where I had the privilege to work with and to get to know Tobias Enverga. Senator Enverga joined our Fisheries and Oceans Committee in December of 2015. At first I said to myself, oh my, a fellow from downtown Toronto on the Fisheries Committee. I had my concerns, but I need not have worried, because Senator Enverga quickly became engaged in the work of the committee and showed a great interest in everything we were doing. Then he told me one day that he had lived in Newfoundland for a while and that he had loved it. I asked him what he loved the most about his time there, and he quickly answered, the people. They were so welcoming to me. Right then and there, he won me over. Tobias had a great sense of humour. It is said that we in Newfoundland and Labrador are known to talk fast. But Tobias talked fast as well, especially when he would get excited about something. I said to him one day, half-heartedly, boy, you talk some fast. And he replied, Fabian, you don't go the speed limit yourself. On another occasion, we were travelling to Nova Scotia as part of our study on search and rescue, and we visited Coast Guard Life Station. The officials there took myself, Senator Hubly, and Senator Enverga out on one of the fast rescue craft for a demonstration. They allowed me to take the wheel, and the man in charge said, when we get around the point, pull back on those two levers. He did not say pull back slowly. When we rounded the point, I pulled back both levers with all my strength, and the boat almost stood up straight on the water. When everything settled down, Tobias said, I thought we were going to have to call search and rescue ourselves. Friends, Senator Enverga was humble, kind, gracious, and always willing to do his part. He was a proud and productive member of the Senate of Canada, and our world is indeed a better place because Tobias Enverga was here. We will miss him dearly, and until we meet again, my friend, may God hold you in the palm of his hands.